Chapter 7. Hermeticism, Alchemy, and the 7 Classical Planets. Let us begin with definitions of Hermeticism and Alchemy, courtesy of Merriam-Webster's Dictionary. The definitions are as follows. Definition of Hermeticism. 1a. Of or relating to the mystical and alchemical writings or teachings arising in the first 3 centuries CE and attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. B. Relating to or characterized by subjects that are mysterious and difficult to understand, relating to or characterized by occultism or obtruseness, recondite a hermetic discussion. 2. From the belief that Hermes Trismegistus invented a magic seal to keep vessels airtight. A. Airtight hermetic seal. B. Impervious to external influences, trapped inside the hermetic military machine. Jack Newfield. C. Recluse, solitary, leads a hermetic life. Definition of alchemy. 1. A medieval chemical science and speculative philosophy aiming to achieve the transmutation of the base metals into gold, the discovery of a universal cure for disease, and the discovery of a means of indefinitely prolonging life. 2. A power or process that changes or transforms something in a mysterious or impressive way. The practitioners of a financial alchemy that transformed the world of money in the 1980s. Gordon Williams. 3. An inexplicable or mysterious transmuting. As you can observe from the definitions of Hermeticism and alchemy, are related and have overlap, both being centered on the number 7. Ultimately, they're both regarding spiritual ascension and purification. Recall the number 7 represents divine completion. In the definition for Hermeticism, notice the use of the word seal. This word having a gematria of 26, the number we first learned about in Chapter 1, is highly relevant. If you have ever read Revelation, there are 7 seals that are referenced in chapters 5 through 8, that are components in the return of the Lord, the Son of God. In ordinal gematria, 7 seals equates to revelation, and the reverse ordinal gematria, 7 seals, also equates to revelation. Please recall that in reduction gematria, revelation equates to 49, while it has a square root of 7. There can be no doubt that the 7 seals referenced in the concluding book of the Bible are in reference to the 7 hermetic principles, which also fall in line with the 7 sacred chakras of the human body. Early Christians referred to the Prisca Theologia, meaning the one true religious doctrine, which is found in the teachings of Hermeticism, Zoroastrianism, paganism, Hinduism, and more. These same 7 principles are expressed in the most important text to alchemy, which is known as the Kabbalah, having reverse reduction of 58, same as 7 seals, not unlike the 7 seals being referenced in chapters 5 through 8 of Revelation. The Kabbalah equals 58 reverse reduction. 7 seals equals 58 reduction, S equals 10. On a related note, the reported author of the 7 Hermetic Principles, originally found in the Hermetic Corpus, is Hermes Trismegistus, having reduction gematria of 85, the reflection of 58, and when S is counted for 10, having gematria of 121, same as Revelation and 7 seals in ordinal. As you know, the number 121 has a square root of 11, and when you sum 1 through 11, it totals 66, much like Revelation being the 66th book of the Bible. As we learned in Chapter 5, the 11 is the master number, and these are master teachings from one said to be most masterful of all by the Greeks. Hermes Trismegistus equals 85 reduction, Hermes Trismegistus equals 121 reduction with S equals 10. Even more, as mentioned, these teachings are considered to be part of the Prisca Theologia, what all the world's religions are centered on. This term shares a reverse reduction value of 85 as well as 121 when P is recognized as 11 and H as 10. Prisca Theologia equals 85 reverse reduction, Prisca Theologia equals 121 reverse reduction, P equals 11, H equals 10. Better than that, the title Hermetic Corpus sums to 74 in reduction gematria, matching the ordinal value of Masonic, and so much more. Let us not forget that number 7 is the 4th prime number, and the divisors of number 4 sum to 7. When we arrive at our chapter on Christianity, the greater significance of this number, 74, what is a reflection of 47, will be unlocked. For the time being, recall that Revelation is about the return of Jesus, summing to 74 using the ordinal method. 74 is 11 in numerology terms. Hermetic corpus equals 74 reduction. Jesus equals 74 ordinal. And on the same train of thought, the overlap with Christianity in the Hermetic corpus, let us examine the Gematria overlap of Hermetic and Holy Bible. Keep in mind, Gematria and Gematria each have a Gematria of 45. Hermetic equals 45 reduction. Hermetic equals 45 reverse reduction. Holy Bible equals 45 reduction. Holy Bible equals 45 reverse reduction. Do not discount that both titles begin with H, the 8th letter. As we learned, this numerical digit represents the infinite, balance, symmetry, power, and strength. In light of this symbolism, let us now examine the 7 principles which encompass these values. 1. Mentalism. The all is mind. The universal is mental. 2. Correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. 3. Vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. 4. Polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same, opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet, all truths are but half-truths, all paradoxes may be reconciled. 5. Rhythm. Everything flows, out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. 6. Cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. 7. Gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. Let's put into terms what 7 principles mean and how they relate to the overall study of this book. The significance of language, letters, and numbers, and the spiritual significance behind their relationship. Again, the purpose of Kabbalah is to understand God, so that we mortal souls can grow to be more like the Creator, increasing our understanding of our existence, as well as our appreciation for being here, and our happiness with it. Mentalism is much the same, recognizing that the mind holds the power to improve our state of being, no matter how bad or good our surroundings are at any particular moment. All is mind, and all can be achieved with the mind. The next principle, correspondence, is intuitive. What happens above happens below. Simply put, we are stardust, and what takes place within the stars takes place within us. If you have ever studied astrology, you are likely aware of how your date of birth impacts the person you are, from the way you behave to the way you think, to what your innermost ambitions are. The third principle, vibration, is a big one. In fact, it is what gives meaning to this entire study. Everything carries a vibration, including every number, and these vibrations impact our state of consciousness and our behavior, much like astrology. If you have ever read about personal numerology, corresponding with your date of birth, and your personal name Gematria, you have learned that the numbers associated with you, which are the digits 1 through 9 and the master numbers 1 through 22, dictate what you are as an individual. What often sounds like hocus pocus to common folk becomes gospel when this knowledge is studied and applied. For you, the reader, I personally recommend decoding your own name, your parents' names, your friends' names, your children's names, and your other loved ones' names, as well as the date of births for each. What you will find will be seemingly magical when you compare the numbers of those around you with your own. Mark my words, it never fails. In the final chapter, I will share with you my own characteristics to help inspire. What is true for me is true for all of us. The fourth principle, polarity, speaks to the dualism of this world. If you have ever done something kind for someone and something horrible happened to you in return, this is exactly what this principle speaks to. Essentially, it is communicating the world is in balance, and this is how balance works. You do something good, and bam, just like that, something bad comes right back at you. If you've ever noticed how tyrants get away with murder, That's the other side of the coin. I don't know how about you, Truth Seeker, but the most dishonest people I know also seem to have the best luck. But please, don't let that be the reason to turn to the dark side. Instead, realize to maintain the balance, the world needs those who have pure souls, which I imagine you are, as someone who sought out this book, the Truth Seeker. As for number 5, rhythm, I think you probably already understand. What goes around comes around. The 6th principle, cause and effect, reminds us that there are no coincidences. Every action determines an equal and opposite reaction. Think of it like this. We as people are dominoes, and what we do in the world, in terms of every action, leads to some sort of output. This is why it is important to be good in nature, because if more people were, we could see a greater positive effect in the chain of humanity. And the concluding principle, the 7th, gender, speaks for itself. If you were not aware, numbers are even assigned to masculine and feminine, thanks to Pythagoras and the Greeks, and possibly those who came before them. According to Pythagoras, odd numbers were masculine, and even numbers were feminine. This is largely because of the number 3, which symbolizes strength and power. Not to say that women aren't strong and powerful, but in terms of physical prowess, men are more gifted in this regard, at least typically. If you want to boil down the 7 principles further, they amount to the Golden Rule, which is the heart of all the spiritual teachings. The Golden Rule is, do unto others as you would have done unto you. If you have ever taken the time to consider the essence of this simple teaching, it is based in the concept that when you do right, you make the world a better place, and you help the next person in line to do right as well. Of course, the 7 principles are more detailed and specific, but they are trying to communicate to the reader the significance of understanding the consequences of our actions and how positivity and positive actions can improve our state of being and create more positive outcomes in the world we all share, even in the face of adversity, as we so often battle with. It's mathematics. Just for a moment, imagine a world where everyone operated by the Golden Rule. Imagine. It could be glorious. It all begins with the mental. Let us now compare Golden Rule with Hermes Trismegistus, the author of the 7 principles. Golden Rule equals 113, ordinal. Hermes Trismegistus, 113, reverse reduction. Golden Rule equals 85, reverse reduction, E equals 22. Hermes Trismegistus equals 85, reduction. Also relevant, Golden Rule has reverse reduction gematria of 49, like the reduction gematria of Revelation, which has a square root of 7, bringing us back to the 7 principles. Golden Rule equals 49, reverse reduction. For good measure, let's compare in gematria terms the words revelation, epiphany, and apocalypse, with the latter word in Greek meaning uncovering or having a breakthrough, not unlike the words revelation and epiphany. Revelation equals 49, reduction. Epiphany equals 49, reduction. Apocalypse equals 49, reverse reduction. In the Bible, in Daniel 12:4, it states that the seals are not to be understood until the end of the age, which is certainly the age of Pisces, which we are now living, and appropriately, these same 7 seals are a major component to the conclusion of the Holy Bible, where they are presented with much mystery and intrigue, not unlike the words surrounding Revelation 13:18 about the number of the beast. Well, here we are, Truth Seeker, reaching the end of the age, and the time is now for us people to overcome and to have a great awakening many of us have been longing for. We must change our course, and we must heal our transgressions now and not later. Here we have the knowledge to comprehend, understand, and act upon, and all the reasons to do so. The verse from Daniel prophesying what is to come is as follows. Daniel 12:4, New International Version, NIV in parentheses. But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Many will go here and there to increase knowledge. We are most certainly increasing knowledge. Appropriately, the book of Daniel is a biblical apocalypse combining the prophecy of history with the study of the end of days, which is both cosmic in its teachings and political in its nature. It is very much a precursor to Revelation, which, despite concluding the New Testament, is entirely based in the Old Testament. Also intriguing is that Daniel is the 27th book of the Old Testament, and using reduction gematria, Daniel sums to 27. Moving on, as stated in the definition we begin with, alchemy is important knowledge to the occult, including Freemasonry. Once again, the word occult means hidden. It does not mean evil or have any nefarious connotations with it. even though it is often considered in such light. Despite the fact that some factions of Freemasonry and other secret societies are operating for nefarious purposes, this is not their true intent. The true intent is known as the mystical ascent, having reduction gematria of 47. Like the degrees on the Freemason logo, as we learn, the mystical ascent is a fancy way of saying connecting with God by unlocking the hidden knowledge that brings one closer to their maker, including that of Hermeticism and Alchemy. Appropriately, the names Hermeticism, Alchemy, and Freemasonry have overlapped gematria. As we decode, keep in mind the number 6 represents perfection, and the number 7 connects to divine completion. Again, Hermeticism, Alchemy, and Freemasonry are involved efforts in the pursuit of spiritual perfection, completing what lacks within, and attaining the divine. At least, this is what they are intended to be. Hermeticism equals 67 reverse reduction. Alchemy equals 67 ordinal. Freemasonry equals 67 reduction. S equals 10. On a related note, revelation in reduction, when V is accounted for as 22, also sums to 67, as does the Kabbalah, when H is accounted for as 10. As a reminder, if you read Revelation, it is full of 7, and of course teaches of 666, and 6 and 7. Revelation equals 67 reduction, V equals 22. The Kabbalah equals 67 reverse reduction, H equals 10. As we learn to start the chapter, the 7 seals of Revelation are truly the 7 Hermetic principles, as described in the Kabbalah and the Hermetic corpus, important to both Hermeticism and Alchemy. Both Hermeticism and Alchemy originate from Egypt, the civilization that was born from the Babylonians and which gave rise to the Greeks, where Pythagoras and Plato learned the wisdom they taught to their followers, including that of Gematria and Isopsephy. As we have covered, it was the Greeks who wrote Revelation, and it is the same Greeks who are credited with creating the Hermetic corpus, where the 7 principles originate according to modern historians. That said, it is often stated all roads lead to Rome, but if you keep traveling, the same road goes through Greece, Egypt, Babylon, the Far East, and possibly further. Since we live in an age where history has been buried, destroyed, distorted, and purposely recreated, we must recognize that much has been lost, some never to be recovered. I make this point so that you remember when I say something is credited to someone, it is entirely possible that despite the credited being placed where it is in modern times, it might not be entirely true. Back on the subject of mystical ascent. In modern practice, alchemy is primarily focused on transmuting states of consciousness to achieve higher spiritual planes, more so that transmuting lead into gold. As we stated earlier, this is not unlike Kabbalah, which is also pertaining to spiritual ascension and enlightenment. For a little more gematria, I want to decode the word transmute, using both reduction and reverse reduction methods to shed more light on the overlap between Freemasonry, Hermeticism, Alchemy, and Kabbalah. Transmute equals 32 reduction. Transmute equals 58 reverse reduction. Take note of the output of the number 32. The Masonic degree coming just before the sacred 33rd degree, and don't forget the relationship between the number 58 and Freemasonry, as well as the Kabbalah, or that the 7 seals are written about in chapters 5 through 8 of Revelation. In Kabbalah, on the Tree of Life, there are 32 spiritual paths, which you can examine from the conclusion of the last chapter. The Book of Formation, the foundational text of Kabbalah, begins with its first sentence, "In 32 mysterious paths of wisdom did the Lord write, the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the living Elohim, and King of the universe, the almighty, merciful, and gracious God. He is great and exalted and eternally dwelling in the height. His name is holy. He is exalted and holy." The very next sentence is where we begin the first chapter. He created his universe by the 3 forms of expression: numbers, letters, and words. Knowing that Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and Alchemy are foundational pieces of the teachings within Masonic lodges, I want to revisit the quote from Albert Pike from his opus, Morals and Dogma. Within he writes, "One is filled with admiration on penetrating into the sanctuary of the Kabbalah, at seeing a doctrine so logical, so simple, and at the same time so absolute. The necessary union of ideas and signs, the consecration of the most fundamental realities by the primitive characters, the trinity of words, letters, and numbers, a philosophy simple as the alphabet, profound and infinite as the word, theorems more complete and luminous than those of Pythagoras, a theology summed up by counting one's fingers, an infinite which can be held in the hollow of an infant's hand, 10 ciphers and 22 letters, a triangle, a square, and a circle. These are all elements of the Kabbalah. These are the elementary principles of the written word, reflection of that spoken word that created the world. Pay in mind to the fact that he uses the word sanctuary in reference to what is contained within Kabbalah. It is no coincidence he chose this specific word in light of the 32 paths of Kabbalah from the Book of Formation. As we learned, every number carries a vibration, which means every word does just the same. Let us now decode the word sanctuary, using the reduction and reverse reduction methods to find familiar patterns in numbers, again 32 and 58. Sanctuary equals 32 reduction, sanctuary equals 58 reverse reduction. In Chapter 2 we learned the significance of 32, 58, 187 in relation to Freemasonry. The establishment of the United States and its capital, Washington, D.C., where the statue of Pike with morals and dogma is immortalized. On the subject, let us decode the word transmutation, the word describing what alchemy is all about, transmuting oneself from the place they currently are to a better place, a more spiritually enlightened place, more in tune with oneself, their surroundings, and God. To do so, we will use the most relevant of the Kabbalah ciphers, ALW, Kabbalah, to uncover one more, 187. Transmutation equals 187, ALW, Kabbalah. Please recall that there are 187 chapters in the Torah, the source code for the relationship between letters and numbers, and the word Elohim in Hebrew equates to 187. Again, in alchemy, you are using the Hermetic philosophy to transmute your state of being, to raise your spiritual vibration, and to connect with the Creator, or expressed otherwise, Elohim. As a second related reminder, it is the belief of Kabbalists that by understanding the numerical code behind the letters of language, you can better interpret the spiritual text from the Hebrew Bible to the Holy Bible, as well as the events and signs around you, helping achieve the same desired outcome of spiritual ascension. It is the totality of the knowledge that the occultists seek to make the path most attainable. Also on the subject of transmutation, let us cover the 7 classical planets, also known as the 7 luminaries, and the 7 metals that are associated with each of the celestial bodies. To the Greeks, the word planet meant wanderer, and they earned this name because they were the only objects in the sky, wandering to the naked eye. It is for these 7 heavenly bodies that we have the 7 days of the week, as we learned about in Chapter 5. In alchemy, the sun is associated with gold, the moon with silver, Mars with iron, Mercury with quicksilver, what we commonly call mercury, Jupiter with tin, Venus with copper, and Saturn with lead. Above all, notice it is the sun representing gold, and Saturn representing lead. The moon representing silver is also fascinating, and later you will learn about the Wizard of Oz and why Dorothy wore silver slippers on the yellow brick road, or gold road, in the book version of the story, which is entirely related. Dorothy and Toto aside, most commonly in alchemy you will hear the reference of lead into gold, meaning from one of the end of the spectrum to the opposite, playing on the principle of polarity. As we mentioned earlier, it is the sun that is 93 million miles from Earth, the true keeper of time, and it is Saturn, the most distant of the planets to the ancients, and having ordinal gematria of 93, that is considered to be the keeper of time by the occult. Understand, it is no coincidence that these 2 heavenly objects, the bookends of time of the 7 luminaries, represents God and lead in this ancient study, and share overlap in letters and numbers. Instead, it is a reminder of duality and how everything in this world has an equal and opposite. As we covered, Hermeticism originates from Egypt and Greece. And it is Egypt where the legend of Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis, who represents the sun and the moon, comes from. In that same legend, as briefly discussed, in chapter 5, it is where Horus avenges his father's murder, Set, who is the planet Saturn, again bringing the two heavenly objects together. In the chapter on murder by numbers, you will discover the significance of number 44, representing kill in ordinal, same as how Set sums to 44, not unlike clock. While we're on the subject, I should mention that a famous story from 1993, that of Lorena Bobbitt cutting off her husband's penis, John Wayne Bobbitt, and throwing it out the window never for it to be found again, was a complete hoax and a major tribute to the story of Osiris's lost penis, which was also never recovered. It is said that John Bobbitt's birthday was March 23, 1967, emphasis on 67 for Hermeticism, Alchemy, and Freemasonry, and the date his penis was reportedly cut off was June 23, 1993, emphasis on 93, which was his 93rd day of being 26 years old. Recall that sun god has a reduction gematria of 26, along with a host of other gods relating to the sun, most notably Apollo. If you look further, his birth numerology also equates to 93 as follows. Star 3/23/67 equals 3 plus 23 plus 67 equals 93. Adding to the riddle is the reduction gematria of the name Lorena Bobbitt, which equates to 54, just the same as Sun, Horus, Osiris, and Love, where in their case, intercourse would be no longer part of the equation, at least according to media reports. Lorena Bobbitt equals 54 reduction, Sun equals 54 ordinal, Horus equals 54 reverse ordinal. Lorena Bobbitt equates to 187 as well, a number connecting to Elohim and the Torah, as we have covered, as well as the phrase unconquered sun, which originates out of Rome and was the title given to the light in the sky by those who worship the sun, including many early Christians who perceived the sun as God's love and spiritual force. Unconquered sun as well as Sol Invictus were two names predating Jesus. Lorena Bobbitt equals 187 Francis Bacon. Unconquered sun equals 187 reverse ordinal. On the subject of early Christianity, notice the overlap in gematria with Christianity and unconquered sun. While thinking about the words sun and sun in terms of the common phrase used in the modern Christianity by English-speaking people, the Son of God or God's Son, titles we'll learn about in the chapters ahead, but which you are more than welcome to decode now to get ahead of the curve. Christianity equals 65 reduction, unconquered sun equals 65 reduction. For a historical note, it was the Council of Nicaea of 325 CE where the sun god known as Sol Invictus, or the unconquered sun, became known as Jesus. In light of Freemasonry being a major part of our understanding of Christianity, as we do through the English translations of the Bible, let us examine the ordinal gematria of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which equates to 325, and most definitely not by coincidence. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 325 ordinal. To close out our parallel to the story of Bobbitt's, the surname Bobbitt has reverse reduction gematria of 47, the number representing time as well as authority, where time is the ultimate authority. The number 47 also syncs with the degrees of separation for the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, as we have learned. Even better, Bobbitt has reverse ordinal gematria of 119, the number corresponding with all-seeing eye, where the sun is the true symbolism of this well-known title. And let us not forget, the purpose of these stories is to capture the mind's eye of the masses, which the Bobbitt story no doubt did for millions. It was just a boy when it was I was just a boy when it was breaking news, but it's a story I'll personally never forget. And even knowing what a hoax it is, I'm feeling sore in my shorts right now just thinking about it. Just as I felt sore in my shorts the first time I heard the news. The media tyrants who contrive the propaganda, they're very much aiming to impact our mental state, and always in a negative way. Again, the mental is the key, in Hermeticism and in Alchemy, which Freemasonry has roots in. and which the tyrants are well studied. Bobbit equals 47 reverse reduction. Bobbit equals 119 reverse ordinal. It's also worth mentioning that the name Bobbit connects to Sun and Horus through the septenary methods as follows. Bobbit equals 27 septenary, Sun equals 27 reverse ordinal, Horus equals 27 reduction, Horus equals 27 reverse reduction. Moving on to draw another parallel between the Sun and Saturn, from Earth we have clearest view of Saturn every 54 weeks, and as we have learned in Gematria terms, Sun sums to 54 in ordinal, while Horus sums to 54 in reverse ordinal, clearly illustrating the significant relationship between these two classical planets that have been studied for eons to chart the course of time. Tying in with the coding of the number 54, in both ordinal and reverse ordinal, eyes equates to 54, having perfect symmetry, just as they do in our perspective faces. If it weren't for our eyes, we wouldn't be able to appreciate these amazing and mathematically inclined relationships in the sky. Even more, the legend is that Horus's right eye became the sun, and his left eye became the moon, after winning his battle with his nemesis Set, avenging his father. Through these stories and legends, we can clearly see how the stars above have been used throughout time to create the belief systems we abide by below on Earth. Again, as above, so below. And you should know by now these beliefs aren't arbitrary. Instead, they are products of countless years of observation, mapping, ingenuity, and mankind coming to understand what is taking place above, ruling over what's below, knowledge that has largely been forgotten in modern times. To illustrate this point, in the Bible there are 189 mentions of gold. Again, the sun represents gold in Hermeticism and Alchemy, and the sun is also the true representation of Jesus Christ, what is God's love for all humanity, unconditional, who died for our sins, and who returned to life before ascending into the heavens. Knowing that there are 189 mentions of gold in the Bible, please admire the gematria of the word reincarnate, where every single day the sun dies at night and reincarnates in the morning. Reincarnate equals 189 reverse ordinal. Resurrection equals 189 ALK Kabbalah. Reincarnate equals 54 reduction. Even better, reincarnate also shares gematria of 108, reminding that the sun is said to have diameter that is 108 Earths across and be the distance of 108 suns from the Earth. Please also recall how this number connects to geometry, and how the Bible also shares gematria corresponding with geometry. As a reminder, it is God who is the master mathematician, and who, according to Kabbalists, has built this world with letters, numbers, and language. Reincarnate equals 108 ordinal. To close this chapter, I want to make an important point. The Kabbalah, published in 1908, the Hermetic and alchemical text where the 7 principles are recorded for achieving spiritual mastery, has credited authors known as the 3 Initiates, who claim to be the spirit of Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus throughout history has been said to be a mortal man, a living god, a god above, and a complete fiction. Depending on whom you talk to, the same can be said about the likes of Jesus Christ and other spiritual figures. In the case of Hermes, as we learned, he is the centerpiece of the closely related spiritual system known as Hermeticism, and the supposed author of Hermetic corpus, which has many parallels to Christianity as covered. What all historians concur on regarding Hermes is that he is a character from the Greek culture, and is the reincarnation of Thoth, the Egyptian god of reading, writing, language, mathematics, thought, and more, whose existence is also debated. There are many who contend Thoth was made up so that the Egyptians could take credit for the advancements of the Babylonians who came before them. According to Manly P. Hall, Thoth is the author of 26,000 books, quite an accomplishment. And as you will recall from Chapter 1 in Reduction Gematria, Thoth sums to 26, same as God in ordinal, and same as Babylon. And it is just that which brings me to the concluding point. When it comes to God, I think we are wise to respect the beliefs of all, from Hermes to Thoth to Horus to Jesus and more, so long as one's beliefs are not harmful to others. Ultimately, all faiths have parallels, and no one is all right or all wrong. To claim that your beliefs is superior to anyone else's is to be ignorant of history and what our ancestors have taught us. In Hermeticism, there is no absolute truth in the same way there is no such thing as absolute cold or absolute hot. If you have ever come to from a frigid environment, the torch of a mildly warm water may feel comforting, but that same water temperature on a hot summer day might feel equally as cold and refreshing, or possibly even too warm due to the already hot temperature surrounding. Thus, all truths are based in perspective, and as the mortal souls we are, we can never have enough perspective to entertain what is fully true or untrue. These are words to the wise. For the few more words, please be open to knowledge, and take what is given, and use what is worthy. I know that in the Bible and other spiritual texts, it tells the reader to take the words within the book as absolute authority while ignoring the words of others. And these same texts are credited to being the words of God, and if not obeyed, there might be consequences. But please use reason. As I have taught my students, God is not the business of writing books, but God is in all of us, and God has given us discernment to detect right and wrong, and truth from lies, however challenging it may be sometimes. And of course, please use that same advice with every word written in this book. As the author, my only intention is to shed knowledge on what has been hidden from the masses far too long, and what in my opinion is derived to be known by all. Going forward, let the light shine, and let the golden rule guide you. Star. And before totally saying goodbye to this chapter, I'll give you a few more Gematria notes to consider. Keep in mind the sun in the sky is adorned by the 12 constellations, not unlike Jesus and his 12 disciples, making 13. What is the 7th Fibonacci number? Which are said to be the numbers God used to create the world we share, that we will learn more about in the chapters ahead. Son of God equals 41 reduction, Christ equals 41 reduction, King equals 41 ordinal, Crucify equals 41 reverse reduction, 41 the 13th prime number, star JC equals 10 plus 20 or 10 plus 3 equals 13. Lock equals 41 ordinal, key equals 41 ordinal, open equals 13 reverse reduction, star. In the light of 7 seals, Christ equals 77 ordinal, 77 equals 49 reduction, Revelation equals 49 reduction. Star, 77 equals 149 reverse ordinal, Revelation equals 149 reverse ordinal, 7 seals equals 149 reverse ordinal.